The title is true. EuroBasket exposed the exact 3 minutes where Nikola Jokic's Serbia fell apart. On September 6, 2025 in Riga, Finland eliminated Serbia 92-86, and in the final 2 minutes Elias Valtonen buried 2 threes and a putback that turned a 77-75 Serbian edge into a national gut punch, as widely reported immediately after the game. According to the FIBA game page and post-game reports that night, Jokic finished with 33, while Finland's relentless glass work turned small cracks into a collapse. That's the surface story. The deeper reality is a coaching choice. One lineup, one defensive decision, one timeout that never came. Across roughly 3 minutes that flipped control and exposed how Serbia's system around Jokic can be manipulated in international play. Most fans believe Finland just got hot, and Jokic didn't get enough help. The common reading is Lauri Markkanen went star for star, role players hit shots, and that's March Madness-style chaos in FIBA. But the receipts show a pattern, not randomness. Finland's 20 offensive rebounds across the night, Serbia's choice to close small, and a switch-heavy coverage that repeatedly pulled Jokic into the action at the arc when his value needed to be anchored at the rim. Per contemporaneous reports on September 6th, and the official recap, Valtonen scored 8 in the final 2 minutes, including a 3 over Jokic, a tip-in when Serbia couldn't finish the box out, and another wing 3 that blew the game open. Those are not coincidence. They're the predictable outcomes of a tactical trade Serbia made and refused to walk back. Here's the plan. First, what exactly was the 3-minute coaching decision? Second, why did that choice swing the game despite Jokic's 33 and Serbia briefly taking a late lead? Third, how did this expose a structural flaw that will follow Serbia unless they change personnel usage and late-game rules of engagement around their MVP? I'll answer all 3, and I'll anchor every step to timeline receipts. The round of 16 date and score, the 8 and 2 minutes sequence, the offensive rebounding gap, the lead flip from 77-75 Serbia to a 92-86 final, the refereeing crew listed on the official sheet, and post-game comments from both coaching and media voices. We pulled the FIBA game page, checked the timeline, cross-referenced the broadcast highlights, and mapped out those final possessions frame by frame. Let's go. So what was the decision? Rehook. Would you still switch your MVP 5 onto a hot hand on the perimeter when your team is getting crushed on the glass and you have timeouts in your pocket? The story and evidence are straightforward. Serbia closed in a small configuration, one true big with Jokic, wings and guards around him, then rode a heavy dose of switch everything on Finland's spread pick and pop. That left Jokic defending in space on the right wing against a confident shooter, while Finland kept a cutter lurking on the weak side for the crash. In the 2-minute dagger window, Valtonen rose for a clean look over Jokic, then snuck inside for a tip-in when Serbia's perimeter box-outs didn't connect, then canned another rhythm 3 after another cross-match. Those exact scoring events were the night's signature sequence, and were described by outlets on September 6th as the decisive burst. The payout, the decision, was not a single whistle or a single shot. It was Serbia's choice to stick with switch coverage and a one big lineup, without calling the stop-the-bleed timeout as Finland stacked momentum. Why did that swing the game? Rehook. If you're up 2 at 77-75 with about 5 minutes left, how do you hemorrhage the next 8 points to a role player and lose by 6? The deeper story is that Finland built the stage for those threes all night by beating Serbia to the second jump. Reports that night cited Finland's 20 offensive rebounds. 20! And that number matters because it forces your big into constant contests and recontests instead of finishing stops. When your 5 is pulled to the arc by switches and ghost screens, those weak-side rebounding lanes go unprotected. Combine that with Finland's patience, swing until they got the matchup they wanted, and you get the classic international basketball knife twist. Long threes become long rebounds become step-in catch-and-shoots or straight tip-ins. Serbia's decision to stay small effectively taxed Jokic twice per possession, first to contain, then to recover. The payout is brutal in hindsight. The run wasn't luck, it was arithmetic. Switch plus small equals perimeter exposure plus lost glass, and Finland gained both. Now the tough part. Did Serbia have counters on the board and simply choose not to use them? Rehook. What is the point of a timeout if not to change the geometry? Evidence first. The official crew in Riga, Jorge Vazquez, Takaki Kato, Luis Castillo, ran a relatively consistent FIBA whistle. There was no credible post-game claim of a decisive officiating error, and unlike the NBA, there's no routine last 2-minute report to hide behind. Serbia had at least 2 classic counters left. Call for a stay-home coverage so your smalls fight over the screen instead of flipping the matchup onto Jokic, and insert a second big or longer wing to seal the glass and deter the putback. The tape shows neither adjustment arriving before the Valtonen burst. You can see the body language. After the first make, Serbia tries to answer quickly rather than slow the game and dare Finland to execute twice in a set defense. That plays straight into Finland's hands. More possessions, more chances to hunt the same mismatch, and more scramble mode boxouts. The payout. By choosing pace over control and sticking with switches, Serbia let the exact 3 minutes they needed to control turn into Finland's runway. Let's layer in what the principal said. Rehook. When the coach tells you the key factor, believe him. After the game, Serbia's Svetislav Pešić credited Finland's offensive rebounding and insisted they didn't underestimate the opponent, adding that Finland deserved it. Nikola Jokic himself conceded the unprepared start and the late breakdowns. The team went down 11-1 early before recovering to lead at halftime, and then ceded that lead right when the game demanded discipline. Media reaction piled on. A well-known Nuggets voice on DNVR Sports blasted the lack of in-game adjustments, saying, in essence, that the staff fell asleep at the wheel. Those are public record sentiments. They're not innuendo. The payout. Public comments aligned with the receipts. Serbia did not make the decisive counter when the game begged for it. But what about the star versus star battle? Wasn't this just Markkanen matching Jokic? Rehook. If Markkanen is the headline, Valtonen was the mechanism. Evidence here is about hierarchy and attention. Serbia tilted coverage toward Markkanen all game. Understandable, he scored 29, but Finland weaponized that gravity to create the Valtonen lane. Watch the spacing. A ghost screen or decoy action pulls a helper a half step. Jokic ends up high in the slot, and the weak side box out is suddenly a guard on a cutter. Even if Markkanen misses, the shot is calibrated to ricochet to Finland's advantage, right into the path of the crashing wing. That's how you convert great defense into broken defense in FIBA. One step of help becomes a free run to the rim. The payout. Markkanen's star power occupied Serbia's eyes, but it was the designed role-player runway that delivered the kill shots in that 3-minute window. Zoom out to Serbia's roster context. Rehook. How much did missing Bogdan Bogdanovic and other perimeter balance matter? It mattered because your late-game ecosystem changes without a second elite on-ball creator to slow the game, win a foul, or repost Jokic with timing. Reporters in Spain emphasized Serbia's injury issues and the absence of Bogdanovic, and the box shows Nikola Jokic as the secondary scorer at 20. Those are useful pieces, but in late game, you either have a guard who can orchestrate tempo and keep your star at his most valuable spots, or you don't. On this night, Serbia didn't. The payout. Personnel limitations amplified the cost of a strategic decision, closing small and switching, because there was no backcourt antidote to grind the clock and pound the glass. Let's talk about the timeline receipts, because videos are about what happened and when. Rehook. Can a lead swing in under 3 minutes define an entire tournament? In Riga it did. Serbia, down 75-71 with 5 to play, strung 6 straight to lead 77-75. That's your turn the screw window. Finland immediately answered, and by 0:53 they had stretched to 87-81 behind that Valtonen spurt. Jokic hit a deep 3 with 0:16 left to flicker hope, but the resistance came too late. The final, 92-86 Finland. Those marks aren't fuzzy. They were recorded across multiple recaps that night and in the official news write-ups that called it the upset of the century. The payout. When you reconstruct it possession by possession, the decisive span is clear and it lives and dies with Serbia's choice to let Finland keep dictating the matchups and the rebounding lanes. What about the whistle and the crew? Rehook. Did officiating tilt this? International basketball is physical, and this crew, Vasquez, Cato, Castillo, called it that way. There were heated fan threads and plenty of slow-mos shared online, but no credible, on-record allegation of a game-swinging mistake, no formal protest, and no official late-game correction process like the NBA's L2M to argue over. That removes the convenient excuse. In other words, Serbia's loss lives in coaching, execution, and composition, not refereeing. The payout: once you strip away the noise, you're left with decisions you control. Coverage, lineup, timeout. Does this really expose Serbia beyond one game? Rehook: if a flaw can be replicated, it's structural. And we've already seen how quickly EuroBasket turns receipts into roadmaps. Finland rode the momentum to a historic semifinal. Germany, a day later in the other bracket, advanced to the final, and Turkey smashed their way through Greece. Proof that high IQ, modern international offenses will keep forcing mismatches, spreading you out, and punishing single big lineups that give up the glass. That's not to say Serbia can't fix it. It's to say the league's scouting report has been written in bright ink. The payout: unless Serbia builds late-game rules around Jokic, no auto-switch into hot hands, automatic timeout on 2 straight crash boards, mandatory second length on the floor in crunch time, they'll keep flirting with this exact ending. So what are the practical fixes? Rehook: if you had one possession to save your tournament, how would you deploy the 3-time MVP? First, protect the rim at all costs in the final 3 minutes. That means drop or show and recover with a hard, no-switch tag unless the clock or scheme demands it. Second, insert a second rebounder or long wing and accept the spacing trade-off. Your offense is elite enough with Jokic that you can live without a 5th shooter if it ends possessions. Third, schedule your timeout for momentum, not crises. Kill the run after the first Valtonen 3, not the second. Fourth, on offense, script one low clock package to get a deep touch or elbow touch for Jokic with an automatic weak side seal and a guard cutting across his face to force defensive rotation, hunting fouls and shoot time. The payout: these are boring, coach clinic solutions, but they directly answer the exact problems that cost Serbia the game. And for Finland, credit where it's due. Rehook: how do you slay a giant? With preparation. Finland's staff framed a plan that didn't rely on the whistle or a miracle from their star. They targeted matchups, crashed relentlessly, and trusted a role player to take the shot the game offered. Markkanen's 29, Jantunen's work, Miro Little's all-around line. Those contributions show why Serbia couldn't just load up on one guy. The payout: Finland didn't simply get hot. They taught a clinic in how to turn a switching coverage into a rebounding advantage and how to weaponize a star's gravity without forcing his usage. Here's the last word. The expectation was Jokic will carry Serbia through the noise. The reality was 3 minutes exposed the blueprint. The receipts line up: the date, the score, the 8 quick points, the offensive rebounding, the no timeout choice, the small close, the switch into a hot hand, and the post-game admissions. And the timing matters. This happened on September 6th, 2025 in the round of 16, not in some early group game with mulligans. In a knockout, 3 minutes is life or death. That is where the tournament turned not just for Serbia, but for everyone studying how to attack them next time. So what did we prove? The 3-minute coaching decision was the choice to stay switch-heavy with a single big while the glass was bleeding and the opponent's role player was finding rhythm, paired with a refusal to burn a timeout to change the math. Why did it swing the game? Because it multiplied Finland's 2 advantages: mismatched shot quality and second chance volume, precisely when Serbia needed to simplify. And how does it expose Serbia long-term? It shows that without a late-game system built to keep Jokic at the rim, add length on the floor, and slow possessions after any 2 straight crashes, they'll remain vulnerable to the exact kind of role-player avalanches that end tournaments. If you want the unvarnished locker room angles, the sponsorship pressures, the federation politics, who gets to call the counters in the huddle, and why it's not always the head coach, then keep going. The next step is inside our Locker Room Confidential series, where we map the power dynamics that shape these decisions before the ball ever tips. Because in international basketball, strategy is only half the story. Leverage is the other half.